What's up, guys? So we're here to talk about the pelvic floor, the women's pelvic floor. Obviously men have a pelvic floor too, but we are focusing on the female. So I guess I'll start off with why I'm even talking about this. So after I had my third, I developed, well, it was towards the end of pregnancy, I actually realized that I had something weird going on down there. It just felt like heavier, even though I was already past due, but it just felt weird. So with the self check, I was like, okay, there is like a bulge going on down here. I don't know what this is. And I really was freaking out. But eventually I figured out that it was a bladder prolapse, which really didn't help my freaking out any less. I was like, oh my gosh, that's not good. It can't be good, right? So a prolapse. So, you know, with that, I didn't really think much more of it. I thought, okay, you know, my pelvic floor is getting a lot of pressure right now. I'm about to have this baby. I was told that it was fine. You're going to be fine. And so I just kind of dismissed it for the time being. Now I am over a year postpartum. My son turned a year in March. I still have a bladder prolapse, and I have a diastasis recti that's about 3 fingers, and you can see that I have 2 hernias. I have one at the belly button and one here. I did get a CAT scan on those, and it has been lodged with fat. So it's not the actual intestines coming out or any kind of organs or anything coming out here. It's been fat lodged. Okay, so 2 pelvic floor issues going on for me. It's been fun, right? I've been depressed, not gonna lie. It's annoying. The exercises that I'm going to show you guys are slow. It's not my kind of way of going about training at all. I don't love slow training. But in order to strengthen the pelvic floor, to strengthen the interabdominal muscles, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, it's just something that I'm going to have to do, at least for now. So, like I said, my initial reaction was kind of freaking out, and I've been depressed about it. I went into working out full-blown. Full-blown for like postpartum. Like I was doing my rowing, I was doing, eventually when I felt decent enough, I was doing my lifting. I went and saw a pelvic floor therapist in Fort Wayne, and she was okay, but I really had trouble with the mind muscle connection when she kept telling me to like breathe in and like hold and like suck up the pelvic floor, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. I really just could not make that mental muscle connection, and anytime I would say that, she really got frustrated with me. So, and I could see that she was getting frustrated, and I just felt like she maybe just didn't understand why I couldn't feel that. To me now, looking back, I feel like my pelvic floor was just super weak at that time. There was no way that I don't think I had any strength going on there at all. So I wasn't even able to contract that much, and that's how weak it was. So I ended up going, kind of just researching myself for a while, and then I went to a place in Kokomo that was way better, and at that point I actually could feel that mind muscle connection. So when I did contract, I was actually able to feel that at that time. I asked a lot of questions when I was there and got a lot of answers, and then I just started doing my own research. So when you first figure out these things, and if you do a Google search at all, you're going to run into basically you can't heal hernias. Pelvic floor is basically going to be a lifetime issue. You can only manage it. There's no like, it can get better, it can get worse. There's no like final cure. Well, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that at all. I feel like you can ultimately heal the body if you support it. And I personally just wanted to jump right back into training, and I didn't want to support the healing. And it was just frustrating for me. It wasn't necessarily getting worse. I mean, there was days where I would feel like more heaviness. Occasionally my hernia would feel a little sore, which I've had this initial hernia after Evelyn, my second. So I was used to it occasionally getting tender if I did too many GHD setups or like certain kinds of exercises. That was like normal. So, but with all the research, I have actually found like you have to go really deep to find this, but I have found where people have healed like both these issues. They've healed the pelvic floor prolapses, the hernias. The guys typically get hernias here, and there's some guys that have healed those, and which is connected with the pelvic floor and the inter-abdominal muscles, which is the inner core, not the outer core, which I found it really funny because one guy particularly, he had a hernia here, and he's, I guess, been athletic for a long time, and it's part of his job, and he was running and it blew out on him. And so same thing, like he got like super depressed about it. He thought like my athletic career is just over. I'm not gonna be able to do anything about this. I'm gonna have to get surgery. But then he ended up doing his own research too and found some things to try, because it was either try this or don't and get surgery, or try this and, you know, or don't and like be done with everything he loves, right? And so he eventually figured out how to make his hip flexors stronger, his pelvic floor, and his inter-abdominal core, and fix it. So is almost completely healed. So he's preparing to get back into the things that he loves. There's another guy that had a hernia in the same area, and he did a lot of different things. I'm going to share some of those with you guys today, to heal that as well. And he is completely healed of his hernia. There are women that I've found testimonials about that had the pelvic floor prolapses, different varieties of those, and they have healed those. And there's a few things that have come into play with the pelvic floor and the prolapses, so I'm going to share those here in a minute. And then also I'm going to share some exercises that you can do to get started. And yeah, and I invite you guys to like come along with this journey with me. I am going to share updates. I'm going to share things that I'm doing, probably more like short clips after this long video, and just share with you guys what I'm doing in my updates, so that way you can join me on this journey if you have these issues, and talk to me about them, or you know, just follow along for fun if that's what you want to do. But just so you guys know, I'm not a pelvic floor specialist. I just really like to biohack my own body and do things and try natural recoveries, which I've done since like 2012, 2013. So it's just something that I've always done. I've always enjoyed doing, and I love to help other women get better and heal naturally, and get fit. You know, like we should be healthy, we should be thriving, we should be able to pick up our kids, we should be able to play with our kids, we should be able to eat well and feel well and be happy, and you know, do all the things that we're really wanting to do and become our best selves. And so that's where I come in. Like, I want to help you women feel better physically, mentally, and spiritually. That's what I'm all about. And get back to nature, because I really love nature, and there's all kinds of things in nature that I feel like also could be improved, which should be another video within itself. So kids are going to be involved in my videos. I feel like, oh my goodness, I feel like previous videos I've tried to get them to like be really quiet, and at times I felt like I was a little like meaner than I wanted to be. Like, get away, I'm trying to do a video, right? And I'm just not doing that anymore, because for me it's not worth it. It's also not worth the mom guilt I get with it. So this is reality. This is what we're working with here. So hopefully you can hear me well. Also, I did want to mention that when I was doing my research, I found that when it comes to surgery, a lot of people end up having a re-injury after recovery, because they still didn't strengthen the pelvic floor, they didn't strengthen the inner abdominal muscles. So they just kind of went back to their normal activities after their surgery recovery. And once the mesh and stuff was like gone, they ended up re-injuring themselves. So to me, it makes most sense to just fix it naturally and develop strength, and you know, just take that time out away from the things you really want to do and try to fix this on your own. I've also heard from women that have gotten surgery, especially on their diastasis, and then when they got pregnant again, they had all kinds of issues, like, and they wish they would have never gotten the surgery. So if you can heal these things naturally, which I think they don't really want you to know, right? They want to make that bank. Then I would do that. I would just try to cure these things naturally, and then maybe if you just can't do it, you put in all your effort and you can't do it, then maybe that is an option at a later date. But hopefully these things that I'm sharing with you today can help you get into recovery mode when it comes to your diastasis recti and pelvic floor. And like I said, I will share my results with you guys over time, and this helps me be committed to the purpose. So all right, so here we go. We're going to go into the inner abdominal core. So obviously we have this external core, which I had built very nicely, and it's still there, but I can't like do any of the abs exercises that I want to, so it's definitely like not as defined anymore. But so we have the outside of the core and then the internal core. And the internal core, when they do these diastasis recti surgeries, they show the internal core and how it's really soft. Okay, so you know how like if you're checking for a diastasis recti, which I guess I'll do a video on that within this, but when you're checking for it, they tell you to like kind of push and see if there's like firm tissue there, or if it's like really soft and it's just going like knuckles deep. Well, that's what we're talking about. So that tissue needs to be firm, and the more firm it is, the stronger it is. And so we want to bring these abs, you know, back together and strengthen that inter-abdominal core, so that way when you have internal pressure, it stops anything from coming out. Another thing that I've learned is like most of the time people don't have tears in their wall, their inner abdominal wall. It's just like I said, really weak, so it's just pressing out. So these hernias, there may not be like a tear here, it's just this pressure coming out, right? So because it's not as strong as it should be. So personally, I have to rebuild that, and then obviously if anybody else is having a diastasis recti problem or a hernia problem, you have to repair that. Another thing that I learned is that you want to try to hold these hernias in as much as possible. And so I have actually bought some KT tape. So I will show you in another video once I get that, because it should be here on Monday. But you essentially put tape from your pubic area on both sides of your abs here, and then you take another, and it stretches, so you want to take another stretch tape and you want to kind of stretch it out and put it over your hernias, so that way it helps pull these in. And so I'm going to be taping that area just like throughout my day. I may even leave it on like when I try to do workouts and stuff, depending on how it sticks. It should stick well, because most athletic like CrossFitters and stuff use this tape for like muscle injuries on their shoulders, on their back and stuff like that, which is where I kind of had the idea, because I had heard about hernia belts, but this guy in particular that had a hernia here, he said his belt didn't fit like for his lifestyle, because he's a very active person. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm really active too, so I'm pretty sure that, and the way these are is probably not going to push them in good enough. So if I can tape it and then like kind of help, and then just be really like mindful of my posture and stuff, then that should help bring those in. So I will share my taping on another video. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the inner abdominal pressure. So we actually have to manage the pressure in our core area in order for things not to be pushed up. Like you can have a stomach hernia that goes up, which I just found out, or you can have all the pelvic floor hernias. So we want to manage the internal pressure. Now, I'd never heard about this ever until I had these issues. I'd never seen any trainer talk about this with women. on all my research of fitness, I've never heard about any of this. It's only when you start researching pelvic floor things that you find these things. It's ridiculous. Okay, so we need to figure out how to learn to manage your inner abdominal pressure with the way that you're breathing and the way that you are holding when you do any kind of exercise, or really anytime that you're picking up something heavy or pushing overhead. This is going to be slightly annoying. I'm not gonna lie, it's annoying for me. But it's just part of like the healing process if you actually want to get healed. Okay, so the best way that I figured out how to do the breathing pressure is, for one, we need to stop sucking in our stomachs, because if you think about when you just suck in your stomach, you're pushing either up or down on your pelvic floor, and you're just smushing things inside. So we have to learn how to properly brace everything, which I'm going to teach you. So stop sucking in your stomach. Breathe. When you breathe, you're breathing into your lungs, but then you're also breathing into your belly. So this is where not sucking in your stomach is very important. So we breathe and fill up our stomach too. And then when you are breathing and filling up your stomach, your pelvic floor is actually lengthening. It's relaxing, okay? So when you're breathing in, everything is lengthening, including your pelvic floor. It needs to relax. And if it doesn't relax, you're actually going to be causing further issues, because you need that full range of movement, right? So even when you do a bicep curl, like, you want the full range of movement. So with your pelvic floor, you are breathing and letting everything relax and lengthen. And then when you are exhaling, you're exhaling with a noise. And this is with everything that you do from now on if you have these issues. So you are breathing in and you're going, okay? And when you are breathing out like that, you are thinking about lifting through the pelvic floor. So the floor gets tight first, like it's the reversal of like pooping, right? So you, first of all, don't push when you poop, but if you were to push when you poop, you're doing the opposite. So you're clenching, right? You're pulling upward. So you're clenching upward, and then so it would be pelvic floor, lower abs, mid abs, upper abs. So that's the sequence in which you should feel. And this is going to take a minute to figure out. It took me, especially if you're postpartum, like early postpartum, you may not even feel this at all, but it's going to take a minute to figure out that sequence and what makes sense. And so when you're breathing out, right, you should feel this immediately tightening, and then everything else after that, okay? So keeping that in mind, that is the inner abdominal pressure, and that's basically what you should be doing every time that you lift. So you want to get so good at this that when you go to lift weight, so whether that's your baby, a dumbbell, a deadlift, doing a squat, anytime you're doing any of that, you want to be able to brace before you are doing that lift and exhale with the brace throughout the lift. Okay, so that way you're not creating any more pelvic floor pressure downward or even upward. You want to get rid of the pressure while you're doing the exertion of the lift. Okay, so you, like I said, breathe in with all the extra going into your belly, and it's going to take a while to remember to do that. And then you're exhaling with the sequence upward. So, and just like that, like you're going to sound weird. You're going to sound like a weirdo. And in the gym, it doesn't really matter, who cares? Once you guys figure out this pressure, you want to be able to engage the core when you are starting your exercises, right? So we want to start at a very basic level, and we want to make sure we're not coning our abdomen. We want to keep that internal strength in our inner abdominal area. And so I'm going to demonstrate that now. Another thing that we're looking to avoid early postpartum especially is doing plank movements, especially if you can't hold in that inner core. So same thing applies, and also you are putting pressure against that inner abdominal wall. So if you can't hold in your hernias and stuff, is probably just not a good idea. I'm probably going to avoid planks and stuff for a minute until I can get at least the taping. But I'm able to maintain that pressure currently, but I was not able to maintain this pressure, and I was definitely doing these way too early. So when you end up getting to that point doing a plank, you do want to maintain the pelvic floor hold, and kind of push through your shoulders like you should in a plank. A lot of women fail to engage that upper back in a plank, and then, like I said, hold in the pelvic floor. If you see any coning, which I'm going to do right now, see how I'm coning, you want to make sure that you're re-engaging. Another thing with these movements is you should be using that breath work as well. So when we go back to the floor here, you can practice your breathing. So you can breathe through into your chest, right? So, and then when you exhale, you're engaging everything. And you can kind of think about that pulling up, right? And then these outer muscles and to close your diastasis recti. So if you put your hands here, you can kind of clench everything together and think about pulling everything together and restitching. You kind of want that mind over matter thing. So deep breath and letting everything relax, and then you know, bringing everything in. Okay, so I like to start with a few of those just to remember those activations, not only before I do like the core workouts, but also before I do lifting. I like to stand and do those. So when I'm standing, I do the exact same movement. I'm just like working with gravity instead of, this is not working with gravity down here. You kind of take gravity out of it, but when you're standing, you have gravity to work against. So once you get to that point, when you start weightlifting again, you definitely want to stand and do the breathing with the relaxation and then the exhaling employment. Another thing that has been very helpful is doing incline exercises. So once I've managed to figure out the pressure and the tightening with the pelvic floor up into the abdominals, then doing incline exercises with that is really a great idea. So breathing, relaxing, right? And then squeezing glutes, making sure everything's squeezed, right? You're thinking about everything moving upward, and then you're going to relax. Let everything relax, okay? And lengthen, and then once again, tightening everything up. You can also get a ball, put a ball here or a pillow or something, and you're going to do the exact same thing. So breathing in through the belly and the ribs, everything's lengthening, imagining it lengthening. Don't push out or anything, just relax. And then you're going to drive up, pick up through your pelvic floor into your upper abdominals, and squeeze the ball at the same time while pushing up to a glute bridge, okay? So you should feel engagement here. You should feel engagement in the inner thighs, and then obviously all of your core with that breath up, okay? So like I said, if that's too much with the inner thigh engagement, then just take the ball out and just do the glute bridges until you're just really familiar with that, and then move into doing the ball squeeze. Another exercise to go into once you've started mastering those things is toe taps. Now, in order to not use the lower back or the glutes too much when you're doing your abdominal exercises, because we want to use the inner core, you want to make sure that your back is squishing a bug. So just remember that. Don't arch your back. Make sure that it is touching the floor so you take out all the other muscles, okay? So once you get really good at like the glute bridges, the squeezing and everything, you can go into heel taps, and then like dead bugs and stuff like that. So the heel taps, you're doing the exact same breathing on the exertion. So you're inhaling, I almost sucked up a bug. So you're inhaling everything, relaxing, and then make sure you're squeezing everything. Once this gets easy, you can go into V's. Or you can go into dead bugs, okay? So this is opposite leg, opposite arm. Now, I have realized throughout doing this that sometimes your pelvic floor and stuff is going to be tired. You're not going to be able to do as much some days as others. Once you get really strong, you'll be able to do more. Another thing is you're going to have to slow way down, because you have to think about your breathing and all these muscles work together. Eventually it will become second nature, just like any other movement. When you do things in the gym, eventually it's just easy, it gets easier. But when you first start doing this stuff, it's going to be slow, it's going to be annoying. So just keep that in mind, that this is a process, and so it's going to take you a little bit of time. There's other exercises that you can do, like clamshells and stuff, where you're engaging everything in the core. You're just really wanting to make sure that you are doing that inner engagement and that breath, so that way you can start rebuilding your core. I am going to be creating a program if anyone is interested to follow a program for the pelvic floor and for diastasis recti. I am going to be releasing a program in early to mid-July. So if you're interested in that, please leave me a message. Okay, so we're going to move on. Another movement you guys can do to get you ready for the lifts is putting the ball in between your legs. And this is a lot harder than it looks. But you are doing that breathing again, and then you're going to put many breaths with the movement of your feet. Okay, so looks like this. Squeezing everything, and then, okay. And the reason that this is so helpful is that it makes you think about moving while still engaging everything. So this is very, very helpful on when you're ready to get into your lifting. I would also practice this with just like your air squats, all your body weight movements, and making sure that you have that mind-muscle connection and that pressure management before you start adding weight. And I didn't do that, and I felt like I made things a little bit worse for a minute, and I would always feel heaviness. So just make sure that you're ready before you start actually weightlifting. So once again, I'll show you one more time. It's a deep breath, and then squeezing everything, including your inner thighs, and then, and you can add as many as you want, but just make sure that you have that engagement in the correct alignment, right? The pelvic floor, then all your abs stacking on top, and then exhaling on the movement, the exertions. And that's what you're going to do when you lift weights too. Eventually you're going to want to move on to full body workouts, and that includes with weight. So when it comes to this, first of all, just make sure that your core is tight, that you're able to do all of those exercises and more fully and functionally, and with all the pressure management. It's very important to get to that point, okay? So when you go into your squats, when you go into your deadlifts, you really want to think about that breath work, just like you're doing on the floor, okay? So you're lengthening, and then you are contracting, and you're pulling everything up. And when you do your squats, when you do your deadlifts, you're going, and then, and once you have the brace, then do the movement. And when you go up on the exertion, exhale more. Okay, so the last few things that I want to mention before I head out is nutritional health. So you definitely want to be making sure that you get enough calcium, copper, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, and omega-3, and water. Okay, so we need to re-strengthen our tissues. We're regrowing tissues. We need collagen. We need omega-3s to not only reduce inflammation, but omega-3s come from protein. So we need protein to build muscle, to build connective tissue. The collagen helps build connective tissue. If you don't have a good, adequate vitamin C, then you're not going to be able to build connective tissue. I'm actually low in vitamin C, so it makes sense. And I figured that out by doing some lab tests. I also have a link that if you guys want to use the link to get some lab work done at home, well, you have to go to a clinic to get it drawn, but they send you your results. Not only will it tell you things that you're deficient in, but things that your body doesn't do good with, so you guys can correct your diet as well. So message me if you want that link. You know, so taking a good multivitamin is great, but if you're deficient in some of these things, which you can find out through the lab work, then you're going to want to add extra of those things to get it back up. Copper also helps the collagen work in your body. So if you don't have enough copper, then your collagen doesn't necessarily like transfer in the body, and so it won't build collagen correctly. So having enough copper in your diet is essential. I'm also low in copper, so it makes sense. And I have already ordered copper drops to start putting in my water, so that way I can rebuild that as well. Sleep, obviously. Sleep is when we repair the most. So getting a good night's sleep, I know that's hard with kids, but just doing your best to get sleep and good sleep. If you're not sleeping very well, message me, because my husband just started taking this supplement that has the magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it actually helps calm and replenish your body of magnesium better than just using the normal magnesium that you would get typically. And then also it has some adaptogenics in it, and it's definitely helped him sleep better. And he is really bad at sleeping well. And so if you would like to know what that is, shoot me a message and I'll help you there. Another thing is emotions. So with all the research, I actually ran across a few different videos where stress, especially when it comes to holding anger or sadness, and then just overall stress, can actually make your prolapse and hernias worse, especially on the way that they feel. And it makes sense, because a lot of women say, like, if they're really tired or they've had a long day, they can feel those symptoms more. So the mind-body connection is legit. Okay, I'm telling you guys, it is legit. And so to find this research, even though some people think that it's kind of on the woo-woo side still, eventually y'all won't, okay? But just to find this research that it's linked to stress and holding on certain emotions, it makes total sense, especially with the traumatic experience that I've had and with some other issues that I've had within my last just few years. That makes sense, and so I believe it. Daily awareness. So another thing is we want to think about our posture throughout the day. A lot of us clench our butt, and we don't want to do that. We want our butt to be activated, right? We want those glutes to work, and you should strengthen them if you want your pelvic floor to be better. And if you want me to program that for you, I will do that, but I'm not going to go over glute strengthening exercises right now, but it would totally help. I heard that just like kind of, this video isn't great for this. I really need to get a different camera. But if you stagger your stance, then you won't clench your butt, okay? And because we want our pelvic floor to like move and do what it's supposed to do. So we need to like not push our hips forward, not back. We don't need to clench our butt. We don't need to put our chest out. We need to stay in alignment. Try to align your spine, your hips, your feet. So if you are in a staggered stance, then you'll unclench your butt. So if you have that problem, I suggest that you just kind of like switch up your stance here and there, so you won't clench certain muscles, and you try to keep things relaxed and stacked. So do focus on posture. If you do have a posture problem, you don't need to squeeze your stomach in. Remember, we want to relax, but we want to stay in alignment. So think about those things too. Another daily awareness thing is like, if you are just standing at a store or something, you can kind of do like the Kegel work, right? So taking the deep breath and then just kind of exhaling. You don't have to be crazy about it, especially if you're in public, but exhaling and pulling all that up. And just like keeping that mind muscle connection, doing it all the time will help you make that habit, so that way when you do get into your weightlifting or you're doing day-to-day things that require you to pick up things, or you know, where you should have those strong pelvic floor muscles and inner abdominal muscles, it's just really important to do that as much as possible. Repetition definitely matters. So just bringing awareness to your whole entire body, what you're doing, what you're engaging, what you're not engaging, things like that is very important. It's the next morning from shooting all the pelvic floor videos, and I plan on finishing editing them and posting it Tuesday. And I'm making my eggs. And while I was working out, and yeah, I'm in the same outfit, but I did take a shower, just so you guys know. Um, while I was making my eggs and working out, I thought about, oh, I totally forgot to mention a pessary. So a pessary is this device that you can get fitted by your OBGYN. And if you are still going to run, bike, lift heavy, and you feel like you have a lot of heaviness down there, you can go get one of these and it'll help hold everything up and in. I don't really like to wear mine unless unless I feel that heaviness and I do still want to do like whatever activity. So it's just a helpful tool to help with the pelvic floor prolapses. So just wanted to throw that in there. I am going to start taping my diastasis recti. I bought KC tape, which you typically see athletic people wear, especially like CrossFitters. You'll see it on their shoulders, on their back. I had read where one of the guys that was trying to heal their hernia could not find a belt that would help hold the hernia in, because you want to mimic your healed body, right? So if you want the body to heal, you have to like help it heal. So I want to push these hernias back in. I'm pretty sure the belts aren't going to go with my lifestyle either. Just like the guy said, he was really athletic. He still likes to do things. He likes to move a lot. So finding something to hold that in. So I will do a video once I get the tape, but essentially you connect it to your pubic area up along the sides of your abdominals, and then you're taking another piece of tape, stretching it a little bit, because this tape stretches and like will go back together. You're going to stretch it a little bit so that way it has tension and to pull that in. Hopefully that will be enough to like keep these back, because I noticed when I lay down the hernias go in. So if that doesn't, I might find something like, I don't know, maybe some cloth or something to kind of put some pressure and hold those back in. But essentially, if you have hernias, he suggests that you try to keep them back into their place as much as possible. So I am going to try to do that throughout the day, every day, maybe with workouts, depending on if they hold well. But I will do another video of that at another time. Also, we shouldn't forget hormones, because as we know, postpartum and while you're breastfeeding, we have this really cool thing which makes our joints and our tissues soft and movable. So if you have that going on, then you need to be even more mindful on the pressure that you are putting in your body, and just know that your hormones aren't going to rebalance for a while until after you're breastfeeding. And so just keeping that in mind. Also, if you're not postpartum and you have these problems, it doesn't matter how long it's been, you can still heal these issues. So don't think that you're at a loss if you're 8 years after having a kid. It doesn't really matter the time. You can still re-strengthen these muscles and heal. So a couple other things that I have been researching and I haven't pulled the trigger on yet is BPC 157, and I guess this is typically it's a supplement. It really hasn't been researched long term, which is why I'm kind of holding off on it at the moment. But it has been proven to speed up cell regeneration, which means that it promotes healing within the body. So there's been some studies on, obviously, rats, not humans, that have, there's tissue repair, wound healing repair. There's been remission on certain brain problems, organ problems. I mean, really, it would be ideal for this situation, but because it hasn't been studied so long, I'm a little hesitant on it. But I do know some people that are taking BPC 157, so if that's something that you would want to try, then I would look into that and do your own research on it. Another one that I'm looking into that has definitely had longer studies on, and also is bioavailable in your own body, is HGH, which is human growth hormone. And essentially it does the same thing. I haven't looked into it too much to see what varieties there are of this. I do know that there's injectables, which I'm not really a big fan of doing anything with needles, so it's probably going to be out of the question. But I did find with pure encapsulations, and if you need this link, just let me know, but pure encapsulations has a human growth hormone support, and so I'm going to look into that a little bit more to hopefully help just support my natural growth hormone and maybe speed up the recovery process. So that's another thing that I am looking into to possibly help speed my healing along. Like I said, I will keep you guys up to date with my journey, some of the things that I'm doing. I will be releasing, once again, pelvic floor exercise program, and I will be including some nutritional tips in there to help speed along your healing, and then also mobility support, because I've also found out that if you are too tight, if you don't have mobility, that can also cause problems where you're ending up blowing out some internal things within your body. So balance really is key here, even though, you know, we all like, well, me in particular, like to be black or white, right? Balance is key here. So I will keep you guys up to date. I hope this video was helpful, and if you would like to sign up for anything, just let me know, and I will see you guys next time.
For me, it's not just a workout. It's pushing past my own limitations and the limitations others impose on me. It invokes liberty, bravery, creates strength, and perseverance. It's not just a workout. It's a creation of my own inner warrior. Boudica.